Hello. Bueno, hello everyone. My name is Maite Pucci. I'm an Unreal Engine artist at Senscape. And today we're going to talk about how to install the engine, about the Epic Games launcher, the general configuration and navigation in the editor, asset management, maps, and an introduction to landscape and foliage. So if you're interested or want to know a bit more about any of those things, stay tuned. I'm going to turn off the camera so you can see my screen, and there we go. So let's start at the beginning, installing the engine. If we go to this page right here, it will tell us the minimum required systems for Mac, Linux and Windows. There's the EULA or End User License Agreement, and also how to download and install it. All the information is here. But you can also download it from GitHub and compile it. But I've already got it, so I'm going to close the window. And once you've installed the launcher, you're going to get this program. It's the Epic Games launcher. It will ask you to log in your Epic account. If you don't have one, you can create one with the sign up button, and after logging in, we will be able to see the main page of the launcher, which is this. You'll have 3 other parts here, which I have disabled because I don't use them. The store, the library, and the Unreal Engine. In store, we can find games and news, and in library, there will be our already purchased games. And in Unreal Engine, we'll have everything related to the engine. You can investigate this later. There is a lot of very useful information. You've got news, the YouTube channel, Q&A, forums, and a roadmap for future releases. In the library tab is where you'll be able to launch and install every version of the engine you'd like me. And in the marketplace tab, there's a lot of content available to use within the engine. There are paid and free items. There are loads of great and free assets to use in your own projects. So definitely check this out if you haven't already. I have a reminder every month for the Free for the Month collection, which is assets that aren't usually free, but you get for free every month, and they're great. So even if you are not sure you're going to use them, just purchase them, because maybe you will and you have it in your vault and it doesn't occupy any space or anything. There's also free content from the Unreal Engine online learning, which is great. And in the samples tab, we can find also for free sample projects and demos to download and explore. This is all great. There's a lot of content to use or to see how things are made. So in the library tab is our vault, which is where all our content will appear. So like I told you, I get everything I can. So maybe I need it in the future, I have it. There's loads and loads of things. It doesn't take up any local space, and you see you'll be given the option to install it to the engine, to create a new project, or to add to a project, depending on what they are and what they do. Well, so now we can create a project. To do that, we first have to launch Unreal from either these buttons or this one, and we're going to use 5.4 today. It will open the project browser in a few seconds. The first time you do it, it'll take a little, but since I've done it, here are my projects. And well, in recent projects, you'll find my recent projects, and the other tabs are templates for different types of projects. Templates are pre-made projects that can be used as a starting point for whatever you want to create. For example, if you want to create a third-person game, you can go to the Games tab here, and if you select this one, it will tell you that it comes with a playable character, with a camera positioned behind and a little above the character. The controls to use it are already set, and so on, so on. It explains everything here. So what a template allows me to do is speed up the process a little bit, because it saves me from having to program all of this by myself. So just like we have templates for different types of games, we also have templates for movies or video and live events, architecture, product design and simulations. But today we are going to use a third-person template. So you'll see it gives you options to choose from. It lets you choose whether or not to use Blueprint, or if you want C++. Blueprint is visual programming and C++ is a programming language. So next it will ask you if our game is going to be played on a computer or on a mobile phone or other mobile platforms. I'm going to leave it for desktop, and there is also the quality of the project. We can choose maximum quality, has some high-end features enabled by default, or you can choose scalable. Some features are disabled by default but can be enabled depending on the hardware we have or what it is intended for. But anything can be changed later, so don't worry. For now, I'll just leave it as is, and we can also decide if we want it with the starter content or not. The starting content is a pack with simple meshes and basic textures and materials, which are quite handy. If we don't add it now, we can add it later, so I'll just leave it on. And finally, we have the ray tracing option, where we can choose if this project is going to support real-time ray tracing or not. We're going to leave it disabled for now, anything else we'll need, we can activate later. So once you've made all your choices, we just have to choose where to save it and the name we want it to have. The naming convention in a reel is Pascal case, which is words without spaces, like you see here, and the first letter is capitalized. You will see that it does not let me add spaces, may not contain space, or certain symbols like, I don't know, that. Nor does it let me go over a 20 character limit. So there, you choose a name and hit create. It will take a while to create and compile shaders, so I'm not going to open one. I'm not going to create one, sorry. I'm going to open one I've already created for this occasion. And double click. So, like I said, every time you start a project, the entire compilation of materials, particles and other things is stored in the system. If that folder gets too heavy for some reason, it is good to know that you can change that location. I've never needed it so far, but it's good to know that you can do it if you do need it. So let's have a look at the general layout and editor navigation. This is the Unreal Engine. This is it. I'm going to have the layout. I'm going to load the default editor layout, sorry, because I had my custom one. This is how you'll see it. I had some tabs docked and I had it different, but you'll see it like this the first time you open it. And at the top we have the menu bar. Below we have the main toolbar, where you have the selection mode and a drop-down menu that allows you to switch between the different level editing modes, which we're going to have a look at later. In the upper right corner here we have the settings tab with loads of settings for the editor, for the editor viewport and the game behavior. Then this big area here is the level viewport, where we will see the contents of the level, such as cameras, actors, meshes, etc, etc. Below that we have the content drawer button, from where we can access all the assets and everything we've got inside of our game, every file in our project. Next to it we have the other toolbar, which has shortcuts to the command console and the output log. On the right, we have the outliner, which shows a hierarchical list of all the content in the level. It allows us to hide or show actors by clicking on the little eye that they have. For example, I can click on that cube, and if I want to hide it, I can press on the little eye icon and hide it. And we can also access the context menu of an actor, from which we can perform specific operations for that actor by right-clicking on it, like this. It's not showing up. Well, and below that there's the details panel, which will show you properties of an actor when you select it. You see, if I don't select anything, there won't be anything here, and if I select something, we'll have details. It changes depending on what you've selected. So if I have some options, for example, like this, we have this little sign that appears if I hover my mouse over it, and it gives us more information. For example, this says that a physical material override allows me to override the physical material to use for blah blah blah, and if you hit Ctrl Alt, you get more information and a link to the full documentation, so you can expand on your knowledge. I think that's pretty neat. I use it a lot. So, to navigate the viewport, you can right-click with the mouse and rotate the camera. You can also move with W forward, A to the left, D to the right, and S to go backwards. Everything while holding down the right click. I can't let go. If I let go, I won't move. You can see up here I've got the keys I'm typing, clicking, selecting. Sorry, English isn't my first language. Or you can also use the arrow keys without the mouse, and Q to go down, E to go up, and the mouse wheel can also be used to go forward. If you're like me and want to not have to click on the mouse, you can go to Edit, Editor Preferences, and type Flight, and select Use WASD for camera controls in the All Settings for the flight camera control type. And now I can move freely without having to right click all the time. The camera speed can be adjusted up here. So now we're at 0.9, but if I go to 28.8, you'll see that it moves much faster. And if I drop it down to 0.3, it will be super slow, depending on how you want to navigate your environment and how big everything is. Okay, to select and manipulate objects, we need to be in this mode, the selection mode. So to select something, we simply click on it, and we will notice that it will be highlighted with an orange border. It is highlighted in the outliner as well, and we can see its details on the details panel. If we want to focus on an asset, we can double click it. For example, I want to focus on that. I can double click it here and it will focus. Or we can press the letter F and it will take me there. We also have the translation gizmo, which is missing for some reason. There it is. I had this one selected. So with the translation gizmo, we'll be able to move objects on different axes, which is Z, Y, and X. We can combine two, like this, and move it in those two axes, or these two axes, or we can select them all together by grabbing on this little white ball here, and you move it around in all 3 axes. There are also keyboard shortcuts to move objects in different axes. So if I hit Control and right click, I'll move it in the Y axis. If I hit Control and left click, it will move in the X axis. And if I hit Control and right and left click at the same time, I will move in the Z axis. So just so you know, my mouse is over here, I'm not clicking on it. So diggy, doogie, daggy. I love it. And if I hold shift while moving something, I can have the camera follow too. So these are quite useful. Okay, at the top right, you've seen we have these little icons. Now we're in the translation one, but we have the rotation one, which can be used to rotate the object in all 3 axes as well, and the scale one, which can also be used to scale objects, also in all of the axes, or combining them like this. I can go through them one by one with the spacebar. Tick, tick, tick. You see it changes here. Translation, rotation, scale, tick, tick, tick. You can change it, or you can do it with the letters W, E, or R. But since I changed it to be able to move around, I can't do it, but it's a preference. You can do it if you'd like. Also, here we have the snap, which enables or disables snapping to the grid. You can activate it or deactivate it as you wish. You'll see that I'm going to reset its transform because it's bothering me. No, that one. You'll see if I have it bigger, it will snap to the grid, this grid you'll see here. And if I move it, it will move in 100 units at a time. But I can have it move at 10 or disable it completely. You'll have the same for scaling and for rotating. We can also activate or deactivate this little world we have here, which flips the coordinate system between world and local, like so. So, for example, if I have it in local, the axis will be according to the local axis of the object, but if I flip to world, it will align with the world coordinates. Surface snapping is also nice. It allows you to stick an asset to a surface. So, for example, if I want to move this around and hit surface snapping, I'll move it around like this and it will snap it to the closer surface it found, and even rotate it like you see here. It's quite useful. You can have it offset like this according to whatever you need, and that's offsetting 300 units. It's quite neat, but don't forget to disable it, otherwise you'll be wondering what's happening. Okay, another good way to select things is with the select menu, which is at the top of the window here, and has many options for selecting. For example, select matching, and it selects all the cubes in a click, which is quite handy as well. And well, you can investigate this. There's many things like select all lights, all stationary light, exceeding overlap, matching selected, and stuff like that. So now we know all of this. Let's see how assets are handled within Unreal. We have several ways to import assets. We can choose to do it from the content drawer. No, don't save. It has an auto save, which I just disabled because I don't want to save anything right now. The content drawer here. You have the import button, which opens your computer folders and stuff. You can also hit the plus add button and import to game. It's basically the same thing. And you can also drag something in from your computer like this. The other two options, the import and add, will import directly into the folder we are in at the moment. So we have to go to the folder in our computer where we have the assets we want to import, and we click open. And we also have to create the folder or be inside of the folder where we want it. The other way, the dragging way, is a bit more direct, and we just drag it in and import what we want. I'm going to create a folder. You can do it either with right click and new folder, or with Ctrl+Shift+N, and I'm going to just name it my stuff. Now I'm here, I can just drag something in, and regardless of the way we've decided to import our asset, for example this, the same window will appear, what will change depending on the type of file we're importing. We can choose to click or unclick, select or deselect many of the options, but I'm just going to leave it as is. We hit import, and that's it. It's imported. Well, it gives us an error, but don't worry. It imports us our meshes, and it creates us the materials we need, and everything's already set up. These little asterisks you see will appear to indicate that we have not saved yet. So anything you have inside of the engine that has that little asterisk is to indicate that you have made a change that hasn't been saved yet. So to save everything, you can click here on Save All, or click here, it's the same, and you select whether or not you want. For example, I don't want to save this, but I do want to save everything I've just imported, so I hit save. It will do its thing, and when it finishes, I'll no longer have the little asterisks. There you go. Now, I haven't told you the shortcut to open the content drawer. You can click on it, or you can click Ctrl space to open it and close it, and you can dock it in the layout if you want, and it will be there forever unless you want to close it. Same with all these windows. You can dock them and move them around if you want, pin them if you want them for a little while but don't want them any longer. It's up to you. You can undock them again, and just for every window you can do the same, like have it there and anything you'd like. I'll leave it like that. Okay, now what if I want to bring something from another project? For example, I downloaded a whole city because I liked just a single car and I want it in my project, but I don't want the whole city. What I can do is migrate just the car. So I'll close this project, don't save, and I'll open, let's see, this one and find something to take. It can be a good way to have a project with only what's necessary, because everything that I bring to it obviously has its weight and makes the project heavier. So what I do personally is I have two projects. The first one is the main one, and the second one is the one that has all the mess. I'll keep the first one super cared for and properly named and organized, and I'll add all the things to the second one to later migrate to my organized project, so it doesn't become so heavy and or have things that I won't use. So to migrate an asset, let's say we want the ancient golem that I have here, this beautiful skeletal mesh. I want it in my project, so I find it, I right click on it, I go to asset actions and select migrate. Doogie. This asset report will tell me all the assets that are going to be copied in the process. So sometimes an asset refers to others. For example, this mesh has some materials and textures, and I want to bring all of that with me because I want it to have materials and textures. So Unreal is going to ask me if I want to take them, so I say yes, but if I don't, I can deselect them or whatever I like. So this little window helps you choose what you want to migrate and what you don't want to. And when I click OK, another little window will appear to select the destination of my assets. That destination must always be the content folder of our project, of the other project, right? The project I want to take it to. So let's find it. Oops, sorry, Midnight Jam, content. Only the content folder. If you select any other folder, it will, for example, let's do it, you'll get an error and it will say select a content folder. So we go again, content, select folder, and it will migrate, and that's it. If I'm trying to migrate an asset that is already in the same location as the other project, it will ask me in a little window again if I want to overwrite it or not. I can choose for yes or for no for each file, or yes or no for all files, just so you know. And let's get back to our Midnight Jam. Where is it? Here. And let's see if we have our golem. No, golem. Sorry, not golem. Golem. Let's see. Control spacebar and ancient golem. Here it is. We've got the mesh, we've got the materials, we got the textures, we got everything, but we don't have all the other things that we don't want from the same pack. And here it is. It's loading. I think, yeah, it does have everything. Okay, so that's what you do. If you want to migrate a level, for example, like this, you can, and it will migrate all of the assets and the materials and such. So, speaking about organization, you can use collections. I'm going to dock this here for a moment. You can have collections, which are very handy. I'll create a new one. If you are using any type of source control, you can share them. I'll just have my collection here, and what this does is it how do you say the word? Agrupar. Collect stuff you want. Like, for example, I want my axes here, and I bring them here, and I want my golem mesh, so I click on manage collections and I add it. You can either drag it in or right click it and add it, and instead of going inside each folder and saying, oh, where is my golem, la la la, you can just click on your collection and you have it. You have your things and you can drag them in. They're easier and they don't move around here. This is just for you, so you have them handy. I also use this quite a lot. You can also color the folders. For example, I want to say, well, this is finished, so I'll set a color to indicate that, yay, it's done. Or no, this is not finished, or whatever. I'll set a new color that means something different to me, or I just want to find it easily. You can do that. And you can also filter things to find them. You can see I have some filters here. So if I click on my content and I want to find every blueprint class inside of my content folder, I'll click on blueprint class and Tugi. There you go. I've got all my blueprints here. Or if I want blueprints and static meshes, or blueprints, materials and static meshes, and I can also filter them for what they are named. So I want any blueprints, static meshes and materials containing the letter B. It will find and even suggest things, just so you know. And then you can deactivate them, right? Okay, I'll close this again. So, speaking about things that take space and organization and optimization, let's talk a bit about the MIP concept. It's something similar to LODs, for anyone familiar with it, but the MIP map is automatically generated when we import a texture. And a map chain consists on multiple levels of an image, each one with half the resolution of the previous one. This, which I'm going to explain in a few moments more visually, awards us with two things. First, the video card renders faster when using the lowest MIPs, and it also reduces texture anti-aliasing, which is the shimmering you sometimes see is generated when we have very detailed textures far away at certain distances. So what we do have to keep in mind, as I said, it's generated automatically, but it has a condition. Textures need to be in a resolution of 2 to the n. That is 128, 256, 5, 12, 1024, 2048, and so on. If they are not in that resolution, Unreal will not be able to generate meat maps for those textures, so you will have problems. I'll show you what I mean with the texture, so we know we can filter a texture like this. And let's find a nice cobblestone pebble texture. No, not this one. This one? Okay. This one. So if I select the mid level, this is the level 0, so it's at 2048, 2048. But if I change the mid level to 1, you'll see, oh, let's fit it, scale it to fit. You'll see it's displayed at 1024, 1024. If I change it to 2, it will be half, 3, half, and you'll see it loses resolution, of course. 4, it's half of that, 5, 6, you'll see what I mean. So at certain distances, we won't be displaying this, and we'll be seeing this. So you don't get the texture anti-aliasing, and you don't have to be so hard on your computer. So that's an important concept to know. Okay, let's move on to something else. Let's create a landscape. As we saw a little while ago, we can select modes here. So I can click on landscape, or I can use the shortcut, which is Shift 2, and it will open this little window here. And I'll go a bit further back. So the first time we open the tool, it will take us straight into the Manage tab, because we don't have anything to sculpt on. You'll see no landscape, and we don't have anything to paint on, so we're here. And in this tab, we will be able to create or import a new landscape, or make changes to an existing one. Since we don't have anything, we can't make any changes. But the preview of our landscape appears in green, and it changes while we change the settings. So I want section size to be 63 by 63, and it changes. I want less components, so 3 by 8, and it changes, so you can preview it and better see what you're working with without actually creating it. We can also choose the resolution, overall resolution, which is the amount of vertices that the landscape will be using. I'll leave you some documentation on this for you to read later, so you know which settings are best for different types of projects. I can choose a material too if I want. You'll see I have the metal gold selected. I can choose any other material I want. These materials are from the starter content, which I mentioned we added previously. So once I have something I'm happy with, I hit the create button and it will create a landscape for me with a lovely gold material. Beautiful. And you'll see that it automatically brings me to the sculpt tab now that I can sculpt things. This is the most fun for me. This is where you'll be able to sculpt the landscape with several different tools you see here. The first one is sculpt, which lets you sculpt upwards like so, making beautiful little mountains. Or you can make ponds or something, holes with shift. So upwards without shift and downwards with shift. You are sculpting your landscape. We can choose the type of brush we want. So now I'm with this little round circular one with a smooth fall off, but it can have this type of fall off and you'll see it's not as smooth, or a round fall off, or this type of fall off. You'll see the difference in the brushes. Let's go faster. You can also sculpt with alphas. For example, this tile one lets you do that, which is fun and handy. Or you can work with patterns, which works differently, or with entire components of the landscape, like so. We can choose the brush tool strength. For now it's in 0.3, but if we want it to be stronger, we can set it to like 1 and it will be stronger. And we can also change the size, scale it to be bigger or smaller, like this. And we also have the other brushes here. We have the erase brush, which will delete height information. So let's delete some of this beautiful art I made. You'll delete this like so, and if it's stronger, you'll just delete everything like this. It deletes all height information. You'll see that here. I sculpt it down and it will bring it up, and if I sculpt it up, it will take it down like so. It returns it to its original state, right? So with smooth, we soften what we've done. Here you see it's all smoother and not so abrupt. With flatten, you can flatten something, like the name says, or you can choose a flatten target. Let's see, say I want to bring a part of my landscape to be as tall as this. I'll select with the drop thingy the height I want to bring it to, and it will always paint towards that height. Also very handy. With ramp, you can make ramps like the name suggests. So you click somewhere and you click on somewhere else and it will make a preview of a ramp. You can adjust it like this or like this, bring it up, down, whatever you like. Let's say we want something like that. And you click on add ramp and Doogie, you have a ramp. It's horrible, but you have it. Erosion simulates erosion caused by soil movement. I don't know if you'll see it, but yes, you'll see it. It erodes the landscape. And hydro simulates erosion caused by rain. This is smoother. Chunk. It's really fun doing this. Well, and noise. Noise makes noise, which can be made up, like to add noise, up. You have to increase the noise scale. Well, you see it made noise. Let's bring it down a little bit. Well, it's making noise. Like that. Or it can be to subtract, so it will make noise downwards. Or it can be to both, so it will make noise up and down. It's useful as well. The rest of the tools are a bit more advanced. I'll let you check them out in the documentation if you need it. But maybe I don't want this beautiful landscape I've sculpted. Maybe I want to bring a landscape from outside the engine, and it is possible. And it's very easy because landscapes are just height maps, so we're good with black and white information. I'll just leave this and just save everything just in case. And I'll open up a nice tool that I like to use, which is called World Machine. You can download it for free at its page. You can, I'm not very good at this program, but you'll see here, you can adjust the scale and the persistence of the Perlin noise, or the curves of height and things, duration of erosion, and well, you get it. Let's say we knew what we were doing and we want to export this beautiful landscape. We can 3D view it here to check everything is all right. And we have to build it first. So you click there and it builds it. And I can choose the size I want. But the free version, I think you can't make it very big. So let's just leave it as is. Okay. What I am going to change, is the resolution. Here I'm going to select the UE4 landscape. They don't have it yet for Unreal Engine 5, so we'll choose Unreal Engine 4. And that's it. We go back to the overview, and as we don't need the texture, we're just going to go straight to height output with a double click, and I'm going to select a folder, let's say my downloads folder, and the format we're going to choose is raw 16-bit. Now I click on write to disk, and that's it. We've made a height map. We can close this. No. And we can create a new level. So we don't lose this beautiful art we made. There are 3 ways to create a new level. One is by right-clicking on the content browser and creating a new level. You can also create one with the plus add button here, or you can do it, I think, with Ctrl N. No. Well, I like it from up here. You can choose new level, and I prefer it because you get this little window that lets you choose whether you want an open world, an empty open world, a basic level, or an empty basic level. I'm going to choose a basic level and create it. And that's it. We have a landscape. Whoops. We have a landscape and everything we need to be able to see something. I'm going to delete the floor because I don't need it. And let's go back to landscape mode. So instead of creating a new one, we are going to import from file. Now I'll choose my file in my downloads folder, this one, and I open it, and you'll see it already gives me a preview of what we're going to have once we create it. Once again, I can give it a material if I want. I can change the settings, or if I have doubts, I can hit fit to data, so that will adjust it for me, so I don't have to worry about it, and hit import, and that's it. I have a much better landscape than the one I made by hand, and it's big and it's great, and I can just use it as is. If I want to, I can sculpt on it like I did with the other one, and I can paint on it if I have a material that allows me to, and everything I did just like the other one. For example, I can scale it down if I think the mountains are too big, and I flatten it a little bit. This is not something recommended, but you can do it. And if I want to, I can position the player start. I'll just put it somewhere around here, and I can simulate the game. And and I can already start walking around, running, and you'll see it's big. Well, let's suppose I want to add some water to this beautiful landscape. So let's do that. If we search for water in the add, where is it? Place actors panel. This is where you can select things to place inside your level. If I search for water, you aren't going to find anything, because we have to activate a plugin if we want to add water bodies. So where you go is here to plugins in edit. You search for water, and you'll see you have this plugin. It will tell us that it is in an experimental version, and it will warn us to be careful shipping content with this plugin. It also asked us, oops, if we, sorry, don't know if you heard that, it's my cat's feeder. It asks us to restart the editor to be able to continue. I'll save the map in my stuff. I'll call it level so creative, and it will restart everything, and we'll find that we can add water once we open it again. I'm going to drink some water while it loads. Okay, great. So now we've got that, we're going to open our level and we'll search again for water, and we'll have all of our water bodies and water zones and everything we need. Let's have a look at the lake example. So if I drag it into the world, it will appear as a spline like that, which I can modify. Let's let it load. I'll close this. You'll see it's a spline which will then have water inside, and I can modify the spline by clicking on its vertices and move them around. I can duplicate them holding Alt, and I have another spline, and move them around to get it to the shape that I want, something like this, and adapt it to the size. We have a lake, but what's going on here? There's something happening that I might not want to happen. This body of water is affecting the beautifully crafted landscape I've created, and I don't want that. So you can search for, if you don't want it either, you can search for in its details. It was affects, whoops, not double F, affected landscape, and you can uncheck it. So now it will adapt to the landscape and not the other way around. I prefer it this way, but it depends on what you need. And you can move it around and adjust it and get a nice little lake, like so. Beautiful, lovely lake in a golden mountain. Okay, now that I have everything the way I want it, let's see about adding plants to our landscape. So let's search for something we can use in the content browser. Let's see what we have. We can click on here and do what we did before, filter by static mesh, and look. Let's see what we have to use as foliage. There's a little plant we could use. Let's wait for it to load. It's not loading. There we go. We have a little plant, a little bush in the starter content. That will work. To edit foliage, we have to use the same little drop down for the landscape, or you can have the shortcut, that's Shift 3, and there you go. And you'll have many different things here and here. At the top we can choose the tool. Below that we have the options for the tool, and then we have filters to choose what we paint on and what we don't paint on. For example, I don't want to paint on any static meshes or BSBs, but maybe I want to paint on translucent things and my landscape, so I leave that on. And below here we'll have the foliage and its details when we add something. But to add foliage to a palette, we can do it from the foliage button or by dragging it from the content browser. With the plus foliage button, I have to add a static mesh foliage first. Let's save it in my stuff. Bush, let's call it bush underscore static mesh foliage, and save it. But you'll see it doesn't have anything. It doesn't know which mesh to use. I have to tell it which mesh to use, so I'll just search for my bush and I'll give it a static mesh to use. So that's how you do it from here, but I'll just delete it. And the other way, which is simply dragging it in, is a bit more straightforward, so it's the one I use. It simply drags it in. You also have to create the little file with all the information. This will save all the information you change in here, so that when you close the editor and open it again, you have the same settings as you did the previous time you worked with them. Okay, so just like that, we can paint little bushes in our landscape. If I'm in paint brush, I click and I create bushes in the landscape. I have to have it selected. If I don't click on it, nothing will happen. So don't forget to select it. And okay, down here we have the brush options. No, the bush, bush and brush. The brush options are here. These are similar to the other brush options, like the ones in the landscape. And I also have the foliage type options, and it will appear if I click on it, like this, and disappear if I don't have anything selected. There are several things that can be configured, but the ones I personally use the most are the density. This is the density with which the plants will be placed. For example, if I have a bush with a density of 100 and a tree selected at the same time with a density of 50 within the same brush, I will have half as many trees as bushes. So let's do that with another static mesh. For example, the chair. What? That's weird. Why not? I'll have 50 chairs and I'll paint chairs and bushes, and you'll kind of see that there's more chairs than bushes. And yes, you can use anything inside of foliage mode. It doesn't necessarily have to be foliage. With the radius here, you can choose the minimum distance between each instance so they don't collide, for example. The the scale in X allows you to randomize the size of the asset on a scale between the number we set as minimum and the number we set as maximum. So let's say, for example, the minimum is 1, which is the default scale of the object, and we want to say the biggest object will be 4 times as big. So now if we paint, no, that's the chair. If we paint, whoa, you'll have many bushes and won't see the difference. Let's do it with the chair. You'll see that you have small chairs and big chairs in a randomized scale. You can choose it to be uniform. Let's have the density be a bit smaller. You can choose it to be uniform, free, or locked in X or Y, X and Z, or Y and Z. Okay, and in placement here there are several. Let's look at this. Sorry. So you can set it to be as big as 4 in X, as big as 2 in Y, and as big as 10 in Z. So now we'll have some pretty crazy chairs. You get the idea. Okay, let's lock it again. Okay, in placement there are several options to paint on mountains, for example, like the ones we have, choosing whether the trees or chairs in this case are going to be straight or to the sides, aligning them to the normal. You'll see if I align them to the normal, they don't go straight up, and if I don't, they are always going to be straight. You can also select up to which angle you can paint. For example, we have a 45 angle maximum, so if I want to paint here, nothing will happen. You'll see like that. But if I give it a maximum, it will whoops, no, al revés. No, what? Don't stop. Ah, there you go. You can paint anywhere, like so. The other tools, a great tool, you can select normally each individual asset. You can deselect, you can paint one asset at a time with single, so you're painting one chair at a time. You can erase, delete, remove, fill, and so on. You can put that into practice by yourselves later. And that's it. In a little while, we put together something that is easy to navigate and quite horrible, but it can be made prettier. So I could run around these chairs and bushes and it works, which is great. So to summarize, we talked about how to install the engine, we talked about the Epic Games Launcher, we talked about the general configuration and navigator of the editor, some asset management, bitmaps, and an introduction to landscape and foliage. So hope it's been useful, hope you learned something, and thanks everyone for being here and listening to me talking. Thank you. I will not be selling this game. If you have any questions, you can ask them. I can stay on for a few minutes and answer them. Or if you don't, thank you for being here again, and hope I'll see you some other time. I'll just have some water. Thank you. Thanks everyone. Well, bye. Good luck in the jam.